It's a sandbox. It's a soapbox. It's FanBox.
And welcome to. Let's get back up here. Oh no!
It's a sandbox.
I promise you, I don't. We're on a new system here. Welcome to this FanBox. I'm Tony. With me is, of course, David and Shay. We are talking Daredevil Born Again, if we can ever get the system working properly. We're talking about Daredevil Born Again. The last episode, which was Art for Art's Sake, which is definitely a more action-packed episode than we got before last week. So I'm definitely excited about talking about that. But before we go any farther, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. Again, my name is Tony. You can find me at Mr. Marvelite. But more importantly, check us out on It's FanBox, itsfanbox.com, and anywhere you can find us on social media for It's FanBox. We are doing a number of shows. This one, the TARDIS Talk, and of course, the Fandoms podcast, as well as some really cool stuff coming down the road that I'd like to officially talk about when the website's working. But we will definitely talk about that at a later time. But with that said, Shay, why don't you go ahead and start us, and then David afterward.
Hey guys, I'm Shay Jones. You can find me at A Spoonful of Shay across all platforms. And I'm ready to talk about this episode because the hypocrisy.
I am David. I am Xanatos1138 on all social platforms. I really wish this fit my head because I'd be wearing it for the podcast right now. But nope, that's it. That's all I have.
And life, of course, gets in the way, so you'll notice that some of our other co-hosts are not on with us tonight. They are either unwell or prior obligations are getting the best of them, but we will definitely be looking forward to seeing them next week. But let's go ahead. Art for Art's Sake, the last Daredevil episode, definitely an interesting one, and there's a little bit of speculation about it. So just remember, if you haven't watched the episode yet, we are going to be talking in depth about it, so there are spoilers involved. So let's go ahead and talk about just our overall opinion so far. David, go take us away.
I mean, it was a pretty good episode. I think I heard something like they had to heavily cut out Muse's involvement in the series. So that's why he just got 5 to the chest and seems to be like written off the show. I don't know much about him as far as the comic book goes, but I thought he was a mutant of some kind that could actually regenerate. So I don't know if he is continuing or if he's actually just gone. That was my main takeaway.
Okay, Shay?
My main takeaway, besides Fisk's hypocrisy, that I will keep saying, because, like, sir, the words that are coming out of your mouth, like, I will get into that part because, like, I really want to talk about it so badly. But I actually thought Heather was gone. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't, like, I was expecting it to just be like another thing. And I am, don't get me wrong, I actually am happy that she survived, but I'm also curious as to the more she thinks back on what happened to her, the more she dissects it because she's a therapist, because she will eventually talk to her own therapist. How soon will it take her to realize that Daredevil and Matt are the same?
She's definitely going to find out before the end of the series, for sure.
I imagine there's got to be some level of intuition that she has. I mean, let's face it, she'd be a terrible therapist if she couldn't figure it out. But at the same time, like, if he can feel like the pages of the art that Muse was using to draw his obsession of her and identify her, it's only going to be a matter of time when she's like looking at the bruises that he's got and everything else and realizing, oh yeah. But it sounds like there's a little bit of amnesia, or at least a little bit of like her being wonky, whether it's concussion or what, where she's like not completely sure about the exact events that happened, other than that she shot Muse. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that one of the theories that I think we had on the show didn't come true, where she was Muse.
I mean, that wasn't my theory. Let me just state that I knew it was a creepy child. I want that on record.
Yeah, and so I like that. I also love seeing Matt just beat up those cops again, like especially that one specific cop.
He's
The
just like, bam, boop.
stick to the face, perfect. It was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and it's definitely interesting. I forget the cop's name that Fisk is trying to give credit to. Um, was it North? Was the guy's name? He's he's in the comics. I know that much. But at some point, I feel like he's going to have a turn in some way, and I don't know if it's going to overlap into Punisher at some point.
He had one of the funniest lines trying to exit the room, and I always watch stuff with the subtitles on. So as he's leaving, he goes, I'm a I'm a go, I'm a go
No,
left."
no, legit. Like that was actually. Oh, okay. So you just gonna give me credit, and I can't. You know what? It's like I'm no longer needed. I'm not necessary at that point. What I found interesting though, because Geek in the comment is saying about like marriage therapy works. I'm like, no. I think if anybody was gonna take out Fitz, it's gonna be Vanessa. Like, why would why, like she won't let nobody else do her dirty work? Like, if she's gonna come to end Fitz, she wants him to know it's her. Why would I send somebody else to do a job I can do?
Good point. Good point.
Like, I sleep next to this man. Like, if I really, if I was so inclined, but when she sent the text, I was just like, nah, that's for Luca. Like, that's gonna be the one that's get taken out. I'm like, but also, sir, like, you really thought like going to the wife was really gonna be
As
was
as
it gonna be the move?
as soon as the wide shot happened with the empty restaurant, I'm like, oh, that guy's dead. That is
Yeah.
100% a trap.
Okay. Can I just say that this scene, that scene at the end, was absolutely my thought that their marriage counseling is actually helping because it's like the marriage, the family that stays together basically when it comes to the Fisks, and the fact that she helped orchestrate that whole hit was beautiful, and I love that because that's like classic Fisk family.
But
So
also, it's the fact that she said, like, when she was talking to Luca, she said to him, well, he said, like, he put a bounty on me, like the whole million. And she was like, no, I sent that man to you. Sir, that should have been, that was the warning. That was a clear warning, but you decided not to take it.
mhm.
The whole orchestrating of all that was probably their version of a date night. Like, this is how we heal. We set this up.
Oh yeah.
Like, ask her
Uh,
if she wants some of that I can't, I'm not pronouncing that. The whatever food I was just eating, ask her if she wants me to bring her some.
mhm.
Like, okay. Y'all, I have so many thoughts about their entire marriage, but it ain't my marriage, so you know what?
Well, okay, when you go
Go
back to
about
the
your life.
original Netflix Daredevil series, like you know the name Vanessa if you've read the you get that, but she seems like a polar opposite to him, and you really feel like the moment that she realizes that he's a crime boss, that she's going to turn tail and duck out of the relationship, and that doesn't happen. To then we find to the point of where, because she always seemed in the Netflix series like she was inadvertently involved but not really involved, and then you have that moment where at the beginning of this series you see she is the crime boss and she is doing the work, and you're like, it's nice to have seen that progression for her, and really someone going toe to toe with Fisk and actually getting the best. I mean, let's face it, she's the only person that could cheat on Fisk and get away with it. Um, but uh, there are some speculations regarding Muse. Now, I don't mean to spoil whatever, but if you've seen the previews for the show, like I think there was like a mid-season preview that went out. There is a scene where it appears that Fisk and Vanessa being in a red dress, Fisk being in a white outfit with blood splattered on his chest, and it looks like they're standing over the body of Muse. That Muse isn't completely gone yet. So whether he is a mutant and is able to regenerate, kind of like what you said, David, or maybe there's another player, maybe whatever happens, and Shay, maybe you get your theory that Vanessa could be Muse, and this is just
I said that.
no, you didn't. Who said that?
I had
Was
to
that
think. I'm
Will?
like, oh,
I think, was it Johnny that said that?
Maybe it was Johnny.
Maybe.
Maybe it was. Maybe it's good he's not here because then we could go back and forth about it. But yeah, so we'll see, because somehow if Muse is coming back, it's either a copycat or it's the person who inspired him in the first place. I don't know. We'll see.
Of the same token of Vanessa and the Kingpin being honest and like working through stuff, don't you think Matt should have told his girlfriend the whole truth by now? Like, maybe.
why would I do that? Like,
Yeah.
no, like it is not. And I'm not even. I really, when I say that, I wasn't even trying to be funny, but it is legit in the sense of technically as a therapist, she is not Matt's therapist, so they are not bound to client patient confidentiality. So whatever they talk about, she is bound to report. So if he's committing crimes, even if it is in protection of somebody, why, like, she's bound to report it. Also, she already has stated a couple times, she did it again when she was going toe to toe, like with her arm just bleeding out. A man in a mask is a coward. You are a coward because you can't face anything. So if her belief is that being in a mask means I'm a coward, even if I'm not, what more is there to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah. I also think in a sense it's kind of like we saw earlier on where she's trying to use Matt to get connections to Daredevil because she wants to interview him for her book. And
Hmm.
there is that type of taking advantage, and maybe he doesn't want to be like, because you can imagine, like, she's trying to do this, she's trying to get the book written, and she's like, so how do you feel when you go do this, or how do you feel when you do that, or and it would just be constantly her in, and I don't know if, what I've seen, it could be her in work mode trying to pull things out of him and utilize that, and maybe you know Geek Renderer says Heather doesn't get the best ending in the comics. um so so maybe there's a good reason why we don't tell her and we just haven't seen it yet.
Hmm.
I mean, there are multiple reasons not to tell her. I like also like even in the when she's coming when she's talking to Matt, but instead of talking to him as Heather, she morphs into therapist. Like he wasn't like I mean, it was a joke, but it wasn't really a joke when he called her Dr. Glenn. No, like,
Yeah.
ma'am, you are therapizing me right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like you are therapizing me at the moment. Like
Yeah.
whether I need it or don't need it, but you've now morphed from being Heather to Dr. Glenn, and I'm letting you know I see when the connection happened. I see when the difference appeared.
Mhm. I do feel
Like
like that moment was necessary, though. I feel like she was letting him deal with it the way he needed to, but let's face it, Matt's not been the most healthy mentally through this whole process.
Not at all.
I mean, when you're getting heartfelt, guidance from Frank Castle, there's a problem there. Uh, it's, I mean, it's a little questionable at that point. Uh,
why?
Mind
Because
you,
if Frank is the most sane in the room, something's a problem.
I guess if you're gonna get mental health, the most insane person might have some insight, but at the same time, it's like, you know, man, he. I mean, I will say he did delve back into the suit pretty quickly compared to what we were expecting, but at the same time, um, I could see why Heather started like psychoanalyzing or analyzing um, Matt at that moment, and I know she meant the best for it, but at the same time, I did love that little jab calling her a doctor. So
That's true. But this is something I meant to mention in the last one that I forgot about until just now. This is my thing about Cherry, right? Cherry is like in this episode, I'm not gonna help. I'm not gonna do contact. I'm not gonna help you go down that path again. And
mhm.
I'm like, sir, if you didn't want him to go down this path, you should have never told him in the first place. You knew what telling him was gonna do. I don't like this. This always gets me about when people do that. in shows or movies, you know what the person's reaction is going to be, and you still decide to tell them, and then get surprised by the reaction was exactly what you knew it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make sense, Cherry? Like, you don't.
Yeah. Let's talk about something else too. Tony Soprano's son giving the ultimatum to BB and kind of like muscling her. And you know, Fisk did not approve of him probably
Not at
going
all.
after her. And I know it's going to bite him in the butt, and it's going to be the reason why we're going to see him. I almost want to say Daredevil season 1, episode 4. I can see Fisk kind of car dooring him a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Multiple times. If you remember correctly. No, also like the more he talks, I'm just like, sir, the soprano is coming out every word at this moment. And I just keep looking at him. And I'm just like, okay, like first of all, you the one who gave me this information. Well, like again, at the end of the day, I'm a journalist, so again, why would you say information I wasn't supposed to know in front of me? And then get mad when you were too drunk or whatever you want to call it, however excuse you want to say it, and then come back around and be like, you can like I can either like we can either make your life like the best thing or we can just make the rest of your life shitty.
mm-hmm.
If I'm BB, one, I'm carrying a recorder on me at all times. The moment I'm stepping into this office.
Yeah, you had
Like,
to know. You had to know she was listening in to everything he was saying. And it was no off the record statement. There was no like he just like it could have been anybody he was talking to in that club. And they could have easily gone and reported it to somebody else and it would have been the same result. So
and
come
he's
on,
like, "Oh, I'm not a
everybody.
chump," and I'm like, "Okay, well then why were you trying to impress?" Okay, let's be real about the entire situation that took place in that club. You wanted to impress them, like that. You wanted to seem more important in the station of being this assistant to the mayor. That's what you wanted. So you're like, oh, okay, like we're doing this. It's gonna be amazing. But also, BB did like when she started asking questions. Why was that not a thing for you to be like, maybe I should shut up? Because, but say
Yeah.
you're drunk, cool, you were drinking too much. I mean, granted, she was drinking a lot too, but baby was smart enough to like have all the percolates percolating.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was like, oh, but what about this? What about
Yeah.
the docs? Like,
Wait till he finds out she's been playing them the whole time, and the only reason why she's even interacting with him was because she's wanting to get at Fisk. Because my thought is she knows that he killed Ulrich, and she's gonna do everything she can to take him down. I really feel like that's what's gonna happen.
like I have no doubt about that, but it's also the fact that like in my mind, what is because he's more of a loose cannon to me now. I mean, granted, he kind of was. I think like he plays up to being so stupid, and granted, he can't. No offense, he is, and um, no offense, he is, but but not like stupid, dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's like more stupid, calculated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like as we've seen him shift and shape and mold throughout the last 7 episodes, like going from like like the clumsy, like very eager person, the dude is power hungry as hell.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's some type of like with him it's a kind of like a hero worship. He sees Fisk as something he wants to be. I bet you there is some similarities to Fisk's background and his in with that character, and it's leading him to kind of want to look at him like a father figure in a sense, and he's really desperate for approval, which means at some point when he screws up for the last time it's gonna be more emotionally draining, I think, for him before he dies than if it was just him being a normal hitchman.
Summed up to he has daddy issues.
Of
I
course,
mean,
we're talking about Marvel. How many? Let's face it, most Marvel characters have some sort of daddy issues. Like,
It's rare when it's a mom, but it's more often the dad that the issues are created within this thing on the show.
I kind of feel like that's why Disney wanted to buy Marvel in the first place because dead parents is like a prerequisite for superheroes.
My first thought, yeah, that was my first thought.
Because I mean, let's face it, Bambi and Spider-Man, very similar.
Instead of a mom, it was an uncle, which is a
True.
canon.
Okay, let's go Bambi and Tony Stark. That'll work a little bit better. You know.
And this, and what gets me about Tony always is that after Avengers, I'm like, sir, you had all the information that you stole by that little USB you put into these, and you telling me within the time from Avengers to Civil War, you ain't looked at these records once, and that's what always got me about that whole argument in Civil War. Because I'm just like, you probably had all this information at your fingertips, which is what you also stated in Avengers. Yet, with between the 2 to 3 year span, as we get to Civil War, you are just finding out about Bucky and your parents. What?
Well, he had all the information. He just didn't want to use it for anything other than what he wanted at the moment, and then he probably just disregarded everything. Because I think Tony had a really short attention span with a lot of things, and he hyper fixated on building suits over going through Shield documentation.
Weapons and tech was probably
Yeah.
his main focus.
Now I will say this, Geek Render. I will say, let's be clear. Most times it's dead dads that make good superheroes, so let's not worry about your kid being a superhero at all.
Yeah, you really don't want to be a part of the origin story in that sense.
Exactly. DC too. I mean, let's face it. Superman's planet blew up. Batman should have never gone to the theater that night. A lot.
Just Robin and Teen Titans, how he fixed the Batman origin is he shoved his parents into the alleyway. I don't know if you
I
guys
mean, the
ever.
only people who had good parents or good dad was Powerpuff Girls,
Yep,
True.
the
and
professor.
nobody would ever wants to fight the Powerpuff Girls. Like we fight whole everybody else but the Powerpuff Girls.
This is
And
this is so off of topic, but did you guys ever see what they were planning to do with the live
I'm
action?
so glad that never saw the light of day. I've seen
Yes,
snippets of
I
that.
loved it. I loved it.
Uh,
Like it would have been so, like, and I mean, and when I say I loved it, I meant it would have been so camp. And I think that like people discount camp until camp is necessary, and people don't appreciate camp the way. And I feel like it wasn't like there were parts of that script and parts of that trailer that were actually good. I feel like if they went back and reworked the script, it could have been absolutely incredible
it
if they
reminded
lean more
me.
into the camp part of it, not so much the seriousness of whatever the hell was happening. Because it was giving Scooby Doo live action at parts.
Yeah.
I I would have watched it out of sheer curiosity, but it gave me vibes of the live action Fairly Odd Parents, where Timmy is like a full grown adult and still wearing the hat, still having the clothes. Like it was very odd.
Well, let's just say morbid curiosity has gotten me into more trouble than anything else, so I try to avoid it. Um,
No, but
Case
that
in
show would have
point,
CW'd harder than any CW show before. I promise you. It really if that show would have like been pitched during the peak CW, we would have got at least 3 to 4 seasons. Like you cannot like I got 7 seasons of freaking Riverdale. So like you cannot convince me if this show like came out a little bit earlier, it would not have done at least 3 to 4 seasons.
okay, well, back to Daredevil. Oh man, it's like okay. So, um, I just want to go back to that whole hit scene at the end of the at the end of the episode. Um, we've seen Fisk do some things, but he's, you know, there have been times where when he was getting dirty, if you noticed, he took off the pin.
Mhm.
He took off the American flag pin and would put it down before he would make a threat. I thought it was interesting because like they did that symbolism, but then at the end where he's eating dinner and the guy, I mean his henchman, with that silencer takes the guy out. He's still in the full suit, and I was like, oh, it would be really cool to see like there's the Fisk with the pen and there's the Fisk without the pen. and would have loved to have kind of kept seeing him do this kind of like a duality where there's like two versions of himself. But it looks like with this and with Daredevil now being out in the open, and the fact that he hasn't called him out yet, like hasn't just said, you know, Matt Murdock. Well, maybe it's because the fact that it's like the cop's not saying that a blind man beat them up. Fisk would be like, yeah, the guy who almost took me down and took me out is a blind guy. It'd probably be the same reason.
Yeah, he's just trying to change the narrative and saying like, no, it was my task force that did it, not Daredevil, who clearly bust through a window. And there's probably people took video of that incident, and it's gonna come out somewhere too.
Yeah, that was a lie that was really gonna be hard to maintain.
Which is,
Like,
which is what BB was saying. She's like, dude, like that is BS. Like as like he's looking at the video, like that went like who came if it wasn't the task force that came through that window, how did a whole window get kicked in from outside?
oh, pressure in the air causing a gust of wind. Could no, there's gonna be no reason, no reason at all.
What got me like the beginning of the episode, like well after Daredevil's back and Fist is sitting at the window and he's going on and on about like this business empire that took him 10 years to build and like all the things about law enforcement and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, sir, you were a criminal. Like I'm like, what? Like in my, I legit want to be like, what's not clicking, Steven? You were a criminal. Like you were a literal criminal, and you're mad that a man who you said was so righteous was trying to stop a criminal from doing criminal activity. Do you not understand how insane you sound?
To keep up with the facade in front of someone that clearly would kill for him because he did at the end of the episode is kind of it's wacky, and he's going a little nuts, or is a little nuts.
Now,
I mean,
no, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say no. Like I was gonna say he's right, but granted, like getting like shot in the head really didn't. Like I feel like it shook him for a moment, but he's like slowly going back to being Kingpin, just now Kingpin as mayor. And like, but as you're talking about like, all the money that you were making people, all these blue collar millionaires, all the people at the port, all the dock workers, like, they were making more money than they ever seen before. As
And
if like the vigilante from Hell's Kitchen was like the only person coming after you. Like the cops were
Mhm.
coming after you too. Like why are we acting like Daredevil was the only thing coming after you when the commissioner even was just like, I don't like you. I wanted you to crumble. I don't understand how you're the mayor.
Mhm.
yeah, and like what Echo did to him to like grow a conscience, it's like his nature is morphing that into justification. It's like a big bowl of soup up there right now.
Not a big boss.
So let's back up a little bit. One thing we haven't talked about right now: the engagement between Matt and Cherry, his the former detective that works with him at the firm. The moment he knew that Matt got involved, was wearing the suit again. It's almost kind of one of those. It reminded me of The Dark Knight, Morgan Freeman playing Lucius Fox. Batman shows him the cell phone surveillance system and goes, as long as this is here, I'm out. And like there's that wanting to keep him in. And I'm wondering if Cherry is going to become a problem for Matt, or if he's gonna actually kind of like come around and warm up to the idea of Matt being Daredevil again, because it seemed very like I was surprised how Matt just didn't seem to care. I mean, because they've got history together, and then all of a sudden, like it just walks out and we don't see Cherry for the rest of the episode. Like there's nothing going on with him.
I mean, besides the between him and Kristen, I think. But granted, she had a point.
Yeah, and who's going to be the one to tell her? Because I feel like she's going to find out too. That they actually might be, her and Cherry might be the new Foggy and Karen in the future. I mean, it looks like that anyway.
But in the same way that Foggy ended up, like,
Oh, I hope not.
Well,
I mean,
I mean, I wouldn't think so. But that also is going to do more. I feel like that's more to do with Cherry's decision on how moving forward with Matt doing Daredevil again. Because again, like I said earlier, when you got mad at this man, you told him this information. Like, granted, he might have found out about Muse at a certain time, but you're the one who told him. You also told him how many people he unalived. So, like, he's been compounding guilt for over a year already because Foggy's dead, and like, which is part of the reason why he gave up Daredevil to begin with, because he felt like being Daredevil is the reason what led to Foggy. But also within that time of him being gone, 60 people, over 60 people at this point,
true,
have been killed.
true.
So, like, either way, like, it was gonna be a rock and a hard choice, but like, acting like Daredevil didn't do any good is redundant.
But here's the thing though, the blame for the 60 people, I wouldn't like. I don't think Matt would be like, well, if I were here, because they only discovered them recently. Like it was only because the graffiti wouldn't come off and they discovered that there was blood involved.
yeah,
And then people were missing that they're like, oh, it's a serial killer. It's very likely that even if Matt was still donning the suit and going off and fighting crime,
Hmm.
he would have never encountered Muse until later on.
mm-hmm.
It just kind of feels that way. The one thing I would say though is, like, Matt has gone from being, we saw him in at the beginning of the episode where it seems like his life was kind of in balance, and then of course Bullseye threw it out of balance, and basically that event caused him to cross the line that he refused to go across, and him praying the Foggy and everything else. Then you've got this idea that he's done, he's not coming back, he's not going to do it. It's not right for him anymore. The police put the gun to his head. He beats the crap out of him in the apartment. He's upset because he's kind of crossed that line again as a vigilante. He's fighting, and then after talking to Frank, he then helps the bank. Which I still love that scene where he just breaks that guy's leg. And then the moment he's talking to Cherry, he's just so cocky. If it wasn't for me, she'd be dead. Blah. And it's like I feel like we don't have Daredevil back yet because he still has to come to terms. I feel like we've got both extremes right now. And there was the I can't do this, I can't do this anymore. And then there was the you know what? Everyone needs me. It would have been worse if I wouldn't have gotten involved. And I think everything's gonna have to fall apart for him. I believe season 2 is probably gonna have one of two things. Either Fisk is gonna be able to spin it to protect himself and stay in power, which Geek Runner was asking, do you think that Fisk will be mayor at the end of the season? I think he might. And I really feel like Matt's going to be on the run. I feel like Matt's going to be the fugitive, and things are going to crumble for him before things get better. Just kind of feel that.
So, just essentially a frame up is what we're pitching, which I can actually see.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole anti-vigilante task force. I'm like, you cannot convince me that at least Powell especially wouldn't be very happy if he finds out that Daredevil is not, like, he would just do it gleefully
Mm-hmm.
with a smile on his face. Like
Shay,
legit his ultimate get back.
Shay, in regards to Cherry telling Matt about Muse, you reminded me of the meme of the guy riding the bike and sticking the stick in the wheel and falling over and blaming something else.
Instead of like
I can't think.
the
I've seen
stick
people
on there.
that's like a trope in like with bicycles. I've seen that a lot. I don't know the meme specifically, but
You never seen that? I
no.
gotta show you that later.
No, because like it's just like it's like Fist not wanting to get mad at Vanessa, but like then beating the shit out of Adam and still keeping him hostage instead of just either putting his out of his misery. Because at the end of like Adam, unless Vanessa figures out where Adam is like he's dying. Like he's not making it out of that cell. At least not alive anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just like
But you know what would be so much fun is if Vanessa does discover Adam for like another 2 or 3 episodes or 2 or 3 seasons. Like they were able to do it long enough, and he's just been in there like fully long hair and beard, like the thing. He's like, I once I was out in the and like just like being that like
Just a
shriveled up man.
random post credit scene of him in the cell. Hello, anyone here?
I'm still
Or
here, dehydrated. Feed me.
Oh,
at some
I
point, Vanessa's the one to kill him.
okay. I like this. Geek Renderer said this. If Matt's on the run, how awesome would it be if She-Hulk was there to clear his name?
She-Hulk being his lawyer, that'd be cool.
That would be
That would
very
be
cool.
absolute. That would be absolutely incredible. And I love Tatiana, so I'm like, please bring her back. People, this fandom is getting almost like the Star Wars fandom, and they're annoying me.
Okay, so let's dial back from the episode for a second and let's have this conversation for a minute because I feel like even when we're talking about Marvel right now, but like even with DC, there is a level of scrutiny and hate for things like, let's say, the Minecraft movie that just came out. Not every film has to be for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like something for it to be successful, and just because you don't like it doesn't mean that other people aren't going to. I went to go see that film last night with my 10-year-old, and I will tell you, if I wouldn't have gone with him, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun. But I came out of that movie enjoying it and liking it. Yes, was it perfect? Not at all. Was it weird in a lot of cases? Absolutely. Did it hit the mark for a lot of like old time like long time Minecraft fans and like kids that are all into that whole sphere of things? Yes. Um, we stayed for the end credit scene, not because that I'm just like weird because Marvel's trained me, but my kid saw the end credit scene and got so it was all he talked about the whole way home was the end credit scene for Minecraft. Like it was some big event where Nick Fury walks up and is like putting together a team, like that kind of thing. And so he's like, "Oh, there's got to be a sequel to this movie," and I'm like, I just love my kid being speculative like that. But like with DC, with people with like Superman, with stuff's going on, we have been spoiled by a lot of CGI heavy movies being able to do things with characters that we would have never thought would have been capable. Especially when you look at um, like the Christopher Reeve Superman and how that stuff seemed groundbreaking, but it was nothing near what we knew Superman in the comics could do. And so we get these big, CGI and SFX, fest type films, and we're going to criticize it because we're going to be like, oh, it's not that great. Mind you, these are based off of comic books, and though comic books can have a lot of content, they are not the heaviest reading or the biggest subplots. They're basically, in some cases, soap operas with pictures.
Hmm.
And please don't hate me. Don't hate me when I say that, but like literally, I'll be honest with you, wrestling is soap opera with fighting. Comic books can be soap operas with pictures. Now, there's lots more action and great storylines and continuity in comic books, but at the same time, they're still picture pages,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to argue about things that are coming out because they don't fit our perception. So, it just drives me nuts.
You want to hear the funniest thing, right? So I made a video about Rachel Zegler, and this person commented like, "What if we made Moana white? Like, what then?" So I explained. Um, I'm like, I'm gonna say this once, and if you don't get it, cool. But I'm like, you do realize Moana's entire culture, race, heritage is tied into this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every facet of this movie is about a specific culture. Making her white changes the entire story. And they're like, okay, well, what about Finn in Star Wars? What if we changed him? Like, what then? And I'm like, so you want to take the only black character out of this movie franchise because why?
Yeah,
And they're like,
especially when people of color in Star Wars is still very underrepresented. Like it's like okay, um I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Okay, we put a white person in Wakanda Forever and in Black Panther because there was a need for that. It was part of the story. You
Mhm.
don't have to replace a character, but if you're going to say, oh well, Black Panther could be a white guy, no, he couldn't. It's not.
No.
It's not South
Yeah.
Africa. It's Wakanda. So
Also, Wakanda is a place that has not been colonized, which also hits them
exactly.
over the head every time. But when I asked them why, I just saw the response earlier, and they said, "Oh, well, I like." It was something because like how they responded, I was just like, "You're like so almost at this point. You're almost at the point. Like you're so close to it, and it's just like we're not connecting because essentially." Hold on, I have to like read it real quick because it was the. I'm like, oh, so you understand the point, but you don't comprehend it. It's like I can tell it to you, but I can't understand it for you. That is literally essentially the comment. Because I was like, you're almost here with me. You almost see the point that is being made in this thing, and I don't understand how we're missing it still. So they said, okay, I was trying to make a comparison, but it's very hard to find a movie where the character's race isn't tied to their character or the only character of race in the film. And I was like, you're like, so we're almost there. We're so close. We're on top of the point.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is in your face, and you're just not seeing it. So like, when people, it's also like what John Boyega said in Never on the Call Sheet when he said like, Star Wars is so elitist. It's like very white. Like any person of color, black or otherwise, even a woman being a lead, like it's a big deal for this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing the recall of Marvel when it comes to POCs and when we see women leading movies or shows, and it's just like rolling back just rolling back feels like so for like a whole entire franchises that are potentially progressive in the forward movement of the messaging that is going on in these
Mm-hmm.
stories. Why are we regressing? Like, does nobody see like the regression is also harming the fandom?
Yeah, and so it's like there are characters that are so ingrained, and I get the culture aspect. Like if we talk about Marvel, okay, people are upset because Sam Wilson is Captain America, except for that was in the comics. It's not that they decided to make Captain America black. Sam Wilson is black. He was Falcon, and then he became Captain America. That's the thing that happened.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we have we have a female Silver Surfer that's coming into the MCU with First Steps. Um, does that seem like a departure from Norrin Rad? Yes, but the character is still a character that is a female in the Marvel comics, and they're going a different direction. It's not that they're saying that they're getting rid of Norman Rad. It just means that they're going the route with this specific character. You can still have things. I remember back when Supergirl was coming out, a lot of people were upset because Jimmy Olsen was black in the show, and it's like I'll be honest with you. Other than me thinking this Jimmy Olsen is too cool for school. I thought he was way too slick for being Jimmy Olsen. I liked him way too much because I always think of Jimmy Olsen as being like this kind of like Superman and Lois, where he's kind of like a little bit of annoying and he's a little bit of a like a immature kind of guy. Let's face it, Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl was I liked him way too much. Like you wanted
I
him to
mean,
be a main character, and I think they kind of like played that well. But
there
yeah.
there's so much mental gymnastics in media for that. Like the first thing that came to my mind was when they had cast POC elves for the Rings of Power. The justification I heard the most was, oh, Tolkien's work was based on ancient European regions or something. So like there were, for whatever reason in their mind, there were no black people.
Yeah,
There was
like
only white
like
people.
people didn't mix it up back then. Like, come on.
These are the people that still believe Jesus is white. So
Mhm.
like you can't
No,
You
they're
can't
getting better.
argue.
They're getting better. They're now like they wouldn't let Jesus in unless he had his papers. So we're
That's I heard that one. Yeah, that's
Like these are the same. Like I'm sorry, when people, it's like when people for Little Mermaid, somebody tried to argue because of how far in the ocean Atlantica is supposed to be, and there's no light touching the space. She couldn't possibly be black, and I'm like, first of all, do you not understand how melanin works?
these are the
Like
same
I
people that
don't.
deny climate change too. Climate change and global warming doesn't exist to them. So I don't know if I trust their scientific knowledge.
And the funniest thing is that people were like, oh, what if they made this character this, or what if they made this character that? And I'm like, you do understand, like from the beginning of film history, blackface was a thing, brownface was a thing,
yeah.
yellow face was a thing.
I absolutely love the movie Aliens. I think it's a great Sigourney Weaver film, but we can't look over the fact that Vasquez is a white woman with brown face. Like that's a thing. Like that is a thing. And they did that. And I remember what was it? What movie was it? I was talking Short Circuit, and the guy who plays the character that is Indian, um, he's a white guy. Like he's a very white guy, and I didn't realize that he wasn't, from India until I saw him in Hackers, and I was like, oh, I see what they did there.
Hmm.
It's
So
like
so
with
I
Ben Barnes in A Big Wedding. Like I just discovered this like recently. I was because first of all, Big Wedding is my favorite movie. Robert De Niro, Robin Williams. Like it's all the heavy hitters. Diane Keaton. Like it's my favorite like movie because it's so funny. But like Ben Barnes is playing this Colombian adopted child. Like he was adopted by this white family. Now he's in Harvard. He's getting married to Amanda Seyfried. This is the same man from who played Prince Caspian in Lion Witch and the Wardrobe. And I'm like, I had to like, I was like, oh, you mean he's white? They just bound him up. I really did hope he actually knew how to speak all that Spanish he was speaking in this movie. But what you mean? I legit was like typing on my computer doing research. I'm like, my brain couldn't comprehend that they gave this man a tan. Like, no, because no, if you see him, he's pale. He is pale and he is white. That man has a tan in that movie. Like he is brown,
yeah,
as if he's been in the sun.
and people
Like
don't realize we're still breaking down barriers when it comes to racial and even like societal stereotypes. I remember when Moon Knight came out, one of the things someone said was, "I'm so glad that they're not putting a yellow tint to Egypt now." Because they did that like for a long time. There was a yellow tent that was added to Egypt to make it look more, I guess, more foreign or whatever. And so you realize that that certain, even like the lensing that they use is made to kind of propagate some sort of stereotype. So it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But like going back to the perception of like we're spoiled, you know, regardless of whether it's Daredevil, because I mean people want to eviscerate the show because honestly it's a Daredevil is a good show. It is a very good show, but I am tired of hearing people talk about how that opening entrance when he's rappelling through the city looked really wonky. Yeah, okay, give it to him. It's a show.
Hmm.
You know, we're not doing like the huge CGI budget like we did with She-Hulk, trying to animate multiple Hulk type characters throughout the show, or different beings or different portals with Wong and Madison. um it's a different aspect. It's more grounded, and so they had to do some special cutscenes and stuff. It's the same time like when you look at like people that like anime and they look at like a different show and they go, well, I didn't like that animation. Oh, well, it's the style that they're doing for the show. It's not necessarily this is all anime. It's not all the same thing.
Hmm.
There are styles for the genre and for the artists and for even based off of the manga that they'll go with. And we have to realize that like in especially when it comes to like Superman, because like Superman's like on the top of my head right now because of the extended trailer and the crap that people are getting about the dog and some other things that happen in the extended look. And I'm just sitting there going, especially with DC, with Elseworlds and like infinite universes, if you don't like the Superman, go back and watch Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch Christopher Reeves. Go back and watch Brandon Routh in Superman Returns, or don't, because that was a hot mess when it came to trying to figure out like, yeah. So it's like there are enough versions of Superman, Smallville, Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois, that you can find a version, radio versions. That way, if you want to, make sure that all your characters are white, just think of them as white when you're listening to them in the radio shows. But like, there is a place for you to find something that meets your needs. Don't crap on what other people enjoy.
But I mean, that's what gives them joy. Like if they don't,
Yeah, that's true.
have that, what will? Because it's. And I grew up watching like Happily Ever After. If no one has ever seen Happily Ever After on Max, it is still available. You can watch it. It essentially is telling fairy tale stories, but multiracial. Like, like there's for Goldilocks, Raven Simone was Goldilocks
Yeah.
in the animation. She was brown. She had blonde hair. The story still remained the same, and they kept on pushing. Robin, Little Red Riding Hood was a Hispanic. I forgot who the voice actress was, but she was Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Little Red Riding Hood, like, and it was such a and it's I think also the lack of empathy, people's lack of empathy towards other people and other differences is also what holds everyone back at the same time.
But
Because
they're also the same people that when you go like somewhere, if you're at a yard sale or if you're at a Christmas store and you see Santa Claus being depicted like a black man, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is terrible." It's like, shut up. Just
like, oh, you're just pandering, and I'm like,
yeah,
what is so wrong about people being able to see themselves in a character? Like my favorite version again of Cinderella is Brandy, and
Yeah.
that was more because that was the first Cinderella I ever saw, and I saw someone who looked like me.
yeah,
Like that made me feel like, oh, I could be a princess one day. Oh, I'm beautiful because she was that, because she was this person. It's the same reason why a lot of people like the blonde blue, like a lot of girls who are blonde and blue eyed, they have somebody to look up to. Why is it so hard for y'all to not understand? Like, is like the comprehension of it is, why is it hard for y'all to understand why somebody might want to be represented? And then when you try to say, oh, well, you have this person. I only have Tiana, and she was a frog for
yeah.
80% of this movie. We like to discount that. We like to forget that. Is the reason why Tiana is not a lot of black girls' favorite princess, depending on the year you watch Tiana and who else you grew up with. Because my favorite is Mulan. Like Tiana's in my top 3, but it's Mulan as my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
She could fall. She got a man. The music is everything, and I
Yeah,
had a dragon. Like, why wouldn't I want that?
yeah.
So it's like when you try to have these conversations, and essentially they're just straw man arguments, because your only argument is to try to protect whiteness. It's not to try to see another point of view. It's not trying to understand or have empathy or apathy for another person who is not getting represented. Like when we're talking about Lilo and Stitch, like, oh, like, because the girl who's playing Nani, she is Filipino. She's Filipina and she's white. She was born in Hawaii. That is true,
Mm-hmm.
but they darkened her skin for the live action. Her skin is not that brown.
Mm.
And then when people try to come to my comment section, granted, I made the video 2 years ago, but they come to my comment section to be like, well, it's the same thing as Snow White or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, y'all don't even, Snow White is not y'all favorite princess. A lot of y'all can't even stand Snow White. Y'all just doing this because Rachel Zegler is playing Snow White and she's half Latina. Let's be real, call a spade a spade. The other problem is
Yeah, well, they would have also been
Polynesian.
upset if they would have whitened her.
Well, first of all, you
That's
don't
my
even have
face.
to. First of all, you don't even have to. Baby girl is
No,
pale.
she
Like
is. Like
she really,
okay,
like
okay. Let me ask you.
the skin tone is there.
Let's face it. Even Snow White in the cartoon wasn't really that white. Like she was,
No, she was
she was.
blush. She was
Yeah.
like a blush.
So, but if you look like, okay, the other idea was like, regardless, Snow White was more of also her character. She was like pure as a driven snow. Like she was a kind of, so it goes so far, um to point out that people just want to be complaining because they've seen people, and again, it's like this whole argument about what things are woke, which honestly things could be much better in diversity, especially right in this day and time. But even
Mhm.
before, when we thought we were making steps toward it, where people need to, and again, I'm going to say it this way because I always say the world is bigger than your backyard. I said, also this, where you think that your stories and your folklore is specific to you and your whiteness, understand many cultures have versions very similar to what you see. And even what you're holding to, The Little Mermaid, go read the book. It's a lot darker.
Yeah.
Like you could tell somebody read a Grimm story. Like I started,
They've oh
I
yeah.
have I have the Grimm brothers book. I stopped reading. I had to stop
Yeah.
because the trauma that the Grimm brothers was sending me through, especially after I think I read Hansel and Gretel. I was like, I'm gonna
It's
put you down.
they're so used to the
I
golden books version, they don't know the actual, because you remember, it's just like history is being done right now. The stories that we think are classics are abridged versions to very dark stories. People used to sing, Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posies, Ashes, Ashes, we all fall down. It was about the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
oh, for real?
Okay, Ring Around the Rosie, a
Yeah.
pocket full of posies. They would carry flowers that they would hold to their face, one to mask the death, but they also thought it would help filter. And then the bodies were so riddled with disease, and they were afraid of it spreading, that they would burn the bodies. And so the whole ashes, ashes, we all fall down. That's what it's talking about.
Yeah. Childhood is interesting.
Humpty Dumpty.
Like,
Humpty Dumpty was a guy who threw himself off of a wall because of financial collapse.
I mean, that actually tracks. Um, like I'm just, I, it just tracks. Um, yeah, a lot of things have been repurposed.
Yeah.
We're gonna say that a lot of things have been repurposed. It is like they're doing a YA version of Phantom of the Opera, right? And somebody said, I am so like sick of them touching the classics. If they want to do a classic, you want to modernize it, whatever, just go read the book. And I'm like, you do realize this generation of people don't read, right? Like
Right.
not in the same way we were, like that we a lot of people did as kids who had like, the Scholastic book fair. Like
Yep.
getting your mom to give you money for that book fair was like a very important thing. Like a lot of us did like to read. This generation, not so much. So what they're going to more than likely do is watch a modern adaptation of something, and they still can get the grasp of what the story is about. It's like people who grew up watching Clueless or 10 Things I Hate About You and Cruel Intentions. All are based on books.
Mhm.
They're just modernized, and a lot of people still talk about those movies 30 years later.
Like this. Here's the thing: if you want to be upset about something that's based off of like something original, be upset not because they don't look how you pictured them in your head. Be upset because the story has nothing to do with the book that you read. Case in point, my biggest gripe with the MCU started with Age of Ultron.
Hmm.
Have any of you? I'm not. I want to put you on the spot because if you don't read comics, that's perfectly fine. Have any? Are any
You
of
already
you
know I don't, so continue.
are either you familiar at all with the Age of Ultron storyline in the comics?
Nope.
No.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
literally, the story is the world falls to Ultron. Ultron has taken everyone out. There are very few superheroes left alive. There are very few people left alive. The entire planet is Ultron. And so there's a last group of superheroes that go and find one of the dead Nick Fury's bunkers to go back in time. And Wolverine and Kitty Pryde decide that they're going to go back in time and try to stop Hank from creating Ultron. And of course, what does Wolvie do? He kills Hank Pym,
Hmm.
which in itself is probably a good idea. And when they go back to the future, Ultron is no longer taking over, but instead of it being the Avengers, they're the Ultimates, and instead of them being good guys, they're like authoritarians. And then Angela and the Valkyries decide to come and invade Earth, and so they end up having to go back in time again to stop themselves from stopping Hank, to figure out a better way to do it. That's Age of Ultron. Nothing like the film. And the comic book was good, because then at the end of the comic book, there is you have Wolverine that has seen what happens both times, from Age of Ultron and from the world where the Avengers were bad guys, basically, or like the world was basically going to ruin again. And the Wolverine that only is going for the first time, and they decide which one of them is going to kill the other, so there's only one Wolverine going forward.
Hmm.
And then they go back to a world that knows nothing about what Ultron did. So it's like, that kind of bothers me when you use a title and it's nothing like the story at all. That's when you can complain. That's a script issue. That's a storyline issue. That's the thing. You can complain about Howard the Duck, the 1980s film, because it is a very disrespectful departure. You can be upset a bit about Ben Affleck's Daredevil, but I will tell you, love that Wilson Fisk. And we're talking about a black man.
Mhm.
And I don't remember people complaining that much, because he did a great job as Wilson Fisk. But people will complain if it's a bad story, but people need to just kind of be quiet when it's just because it's not what they picture in their head.
Man, I dread the day, because I think that Dave Filoni's next Star Wars movie is going to be called Heir to the Empire. If it's nothing like the books, fans are going to be insufferable about it.
Yeah.
No, but I think the bigger issue is that like a century almost, yeah, over a century almost, essentially, when it comes to media, white centeredness has been the thing. So once we start moving away from that, no one who unfortunately is not white or who is white has some sense, don't understand how to move, because they're no longer being centered, and they take it as it's a threat against them, instead of just saying it's just we're just opening the table a little bit bigger. No one's trying to take anything away from you. No one's trying to like overpower you. It's the same table. We're asking you to share, but apparently sharing, we understand, has never been your strong suit, giving your ancestors, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's like when somebody said to me, they're just like, let's the past be the past. And now my response forever will be, I have no problem leaving the past in the past. The problem is y'all
You
can't
don't.
leave the past in the past. And
Yeah,
since y'all can't leave the past in the past, that's why we're here.
exactly.
Like, we're not here because of me. We're still here. We still talk about race because y'all made it a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Race was never a big deal to us. Y'all made it one. So if you have an issue with the way this world is turning out, in the world of Julius Sugar Baker, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And
I didn't bring us here. Y'all brought us here.
yeah.
And the reason everything is about race is because you made everything about race.
No, yeah. No, and I think that's the
So
thing. Like, and again, it goes back to, like, there needs to be variations. There needs to be representation. There needs to be diversity. There needs to be this understanding that, and I think this is the crux of it. If you don't like it, it's not for you. Move on, and let the people who will enjoy it enjoy it. Listen, if something is universally trash, guess what? Everyone unites together when it is.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say
that's true.
this. I say this a lot. I bring this up whenever I can. The movie Aragon was a large, heaping, steaming piece of garbage.
I don't
Not
think
faithful to the story.
I
Not
don't think I
faithful.
saw it because everybody was just like, "Don't even do it," and I was just like, "Okay,
No,
you
it.
ain't
Seeing
gotta."
seeing the movie is what prompted me to read the book series,
And when I read the
and
book, I was,
I
oh,
read the first book and I'm like, oh my god, they left so many things out, and they made a character who's
oh.
super important a tiny part of the movie.
Or let's even talk about the fact that the Urgle, like, oh, first of all, the girl was supposed to be an elf. The Urgles were supposed to be like giant, like minotaur, like heaping
Yep.
beasts,
Yep.
and they made them stupid barbarians.
They made
Like,
Angela just a crappy fortune teller in the village, and she played a part in the entire series.
oh yeah, it was
I
bad.
think I think when it comes to that, that's when you have somebody who writes it who doesn't even like who doesn't understand the lore, who doesn't want to protect it type of
Yeah,
situation,
but
and that's also what
here was the
hurts it.
worst thing about this though. Christopher Polini was involved heavily in that film. And I sat there going, what are you doing? It's like Ready Player One is vastly different than the books.
Oh yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like
But it worked
yeah, because they
because
they,
Mm.
they modernized it, right?
but
They made it.
it wasn't so much they modernized it. There was no way they could have fit in that movie everything that happened in those books. Plus, also all of the characters were like obese and heavy set and everything else because like the whole idea was they were so connected to the Oasis that they let their bodies go. And it wasn't until um the main protagonist like ends up like working on himself and bettering himself to the point of where they didn't even recognize him when they saw him because he had programmed like workout training into his VR that he couldn't get on unless he did exercise, which I thought was genius. But like even some of like the special quests that they did, it was like him enacting the entire movie of War Games,
Mhm.
and it just they could never have fit it. They could have never fitted in.
The only thing I wish they had changed from the movie is like in the book, I forget her name, but his love interest. Uh, they're
Oh
talking
yeah,
for Artemis. Artemis.
Artemis. Yeah,
They're
Mhm.
talking for months, and like he says he loves her in like a nightclub, but this is after a long time of communication. In the movie, it's like their second meeting. And it's like
yeah.
that looks creepy as fuck.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but that's more like it worked personally for me because like I like in romance terms, it worked for what we're going for. Like, oh, like first of all, like in his mind, most of the people who he's around are guys. So this is like the first time a girl actually has his interest. And she's intriguing and she's like she really is trying to like get the prize for whatever reason. Okay, meet cute. We had a meet cute, now we're going a second time. Oh, oh, but you're really a girl. Okay, that like we're locked in now. Like from a romantic standpoint, it makes sense. But it kind of reminds me of Harry Potter, the third movie, and I was so pissed when I came out of Prisoner of Azkaban because Prisoner of Azkaban is one of my favorite books in the series, and there's so much left out when we get to that
Mhm.
shack. And I was so upset. And my friend's like, "Why are you upset?" And I'm like, "Because there was so much. First of all, I'm already here for 2 hours. You got time
Yeah.
to explain why this man betrayed his friends. You have the time to do that. Why are we not doing that? I feel like that is important.
Yeah.
It was important enough when I was reading it. Why are we not including that?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
like
it's
the only
like
thing I've ever been upset about after like reading a book going into a movie.
I think I have a similar like opinion like with Lord of the Rings because I remember reading the Lord of the Rings and then watching the Fellowship of the Ring and going, "Where's Tom Bombadil?" And it's like I spent a long period of my life reading through that part of the story, and there's not even a reference to it. And I thought it was completely upsetting. I get why they cut a lot of that, but then but then we had a whole bunch of stuff with the whole Hobbit series. They added a whole bunch of extra stuff to it. It's like, yeah, why didn't you put just Tom Bombadil's there at that point? You know, just give him something. But good.
I haven't finished reading Fellowship. I really want to finish reading the Lord of the Rings books someday. I
Mm-hmm.
thoroughly enjoy the movies. I love the extended editions more because there's a lot more in them.
Mm-hmm.
But like from what I've read from Fellowship so far, they keep stopping for tea. Like even when their life is in danger, which is pretty funny. But one of the more interesting cuts is Gandalf leaves Frodo for like 10 years and then comes back like, "Oh, hey, the ring is dangerous. I've been doing research for the last decade."
Yeah, it goes by really fast in the movie, which you it's everybody talks about like there's like time jumps in like Marvel movies. The Fellowship does it really badly. And then there's even a part in the movie where Frodo and them are looking and they see the elves like departing to the west, and I'm like, wait, in the books they stop and talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
and like Frodo's made an elf friend, and so anytime an elf sees him, he knows he's a friend of the elves. and it's like, come on, like that could have been cool to keep. And then like the extended edition did some good things with like the wood elves and everything, but we could keep talking about this. I will say that, except for this is the Daredevil born again conversation, and so that was like 30 minutes ago. But we probably should be wrapping up, just because it's already over an hour. Um, if you're watching with us still, thank you so much. We appreciate that. If you're still listening to this, I don't know why, because we're going all over the place. And if you liked some of the conversation that we had, especially about, you know, about diversity in film and everything else, I highly recommend you go back and listen to last week, or watch last week's episode of Fandoms, because we had Shay and JJ, and Jade on, and we did delve into that for a good while. It was almost a 2-hour episode, and so some of the stuff you heard here, you will hear there, and then there's also a lot more stuff to that. But let's go ahead and wrap up with Daredevil, because I know Geek Renderer is like up like super dark 30 in the morning, like,
Like it's like what,
European time.
4-ish?
Yeah. And buddy, I love you so much that you're sticking with us. But let's go ahead and give our overall thoughts, of the episode real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get off. Shay, go ahead and start us.
Overall, I think either Heather is gonna learn the truth and she might surprise me and not like right on that. Or they're gonna break up and then she's still gonna die. I feel like that's still on the table for some reason. Don't ask me why. I just feel like that it has to be on the table. Um, I hope to get like that final showdown between Fisk and Matt once they both accepted the path
Mm-hmm.
that they are now on. Essentially, the path they were always on, but pretended they weren't. But that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, David.
I'm somewhere between wanting just a few people to know that he's Daredevil and like the entire city to know that he's Daredevil, because there's a thing in the comics where Matt has to wear a t-shirt as a joke that says "I am not Daredevil" in all caps. And I think that'd be really funny if Charlie Cox put that on for the show. But no, overall, like the episode, and I'm looking forward to the next two.
Okay. I will say there are moments in this episode that are my favorite of the season so far, but at the same time, this is probably one of my least favorite episodes of the season, for the sheer fact that I feel like everything happened way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the last episode with him fighting Muse, and this episode, like, unless there's more to come, and I may change my opinion later on, I feel like they kind of rushed this story a little bit. And I know there's more, but come on, couldn't you have given him like 3 episodes? Like, give me a
Yeah,
little more, like make it a little bit.
just an arc.
It's like, oh, I caught him. He's gonna be manic. Oh, it's like, oh, look, braille paintings of my love interest. Let me go ahead and go save the day after I zoink this police officer in the head with my baton. Like, I loved it. I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed certain moments, but overall, I think it's going a little too fast. So, but I will say it did end on a high note, because that assassination was choice. I thought it was so much fun, just kind of seeing like Vanessa and Fisk working together again. Yeah, I'm ready for this week's episode. So that's it. With that said, this is It's Fanbox. Please be sure to check us out, itsfanbox.com, as well as you can go on, youtube.com/itsfanbox, to find our channel. This and many other podcasts are there. If you want to go back and watch Agatha all along, and you would like to see a companion podcast, those episodes are there. That was one of our most successful podcasts. Of course, it was a fun show just to really kind of delve into. But also for tomorrow, we'll be on TARDIS Talks at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and we are talking about the Series 1 season finales, Bad Wolf and The Parting of Ways. And so we are finishing off the Christopher Eccleston run just in time to jump into Judy and the 15th Doctor's second season, which will be airing the 12th of April, when we are going to be talking about it the 13th of April. So
Mhm.
it'll really feel like an after show for a little bit. But with that said, go ahead, Shay, tell us where we can find you.
Hey guys, you can find me at A Spoonful of Shade across all social media platforms.
And you can find me at Xanatos1138 on all social platforms as well.
And my name is Tony. You can find me at Mr. Marvelite, but most importantly, find us here at itsfanbox.com. We really thank you guys a lot, and we will see you next